Today's Warzone video, I have the top 6 meta SMGs you guys need to be using. These are without a doubt the most meta SMGs in the game, and I also got a special one for you guys at the very end. If you haven't enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe, notifications turned on, and let's hop into this. All right, so for our first gun here today, we're going to be taking a look at the Mark 5 SMG. This is probably one of the best guns in the game right now. It's an absolutely amazing gun to be able to use, and let's hop into a good build for it that you guys are going to dominate Warzone with. So first thing, muzzle category, we're going to go for that beautiful recoil booster for that overall increase in fire rate. This really helps out all the Vanguard SMGs in terms of their overall TTK, so you pretty much never run a silencer on any of the Vanguard SMGs. Now, in the barrel section, what we're going to do is we're going to throw on the Armaguerra 342mm 04P barrel. This is going to make this thing real accurate, real controllable. It's going to be pretty awesome. Otherwise, if you guys really want to, you can switch it out for the body 240mm barrel, and I've actually ran that, had good success with it. So between the body and the Armaguerra, these are going to be the top choices. Now, in the underbarrel section, we're going to go for something a little bit interesting here that I haven't done too much before, which is going to for the SG98 compact for aim, walking, movement speed, and that reduced scope sway and gun bob. This is really going to help you guys be pretty agile in terms of your ADS movement speed, and I really like using the SG98 compact. Now, in the magazine section, we're going to go for the 8mm Nambu 64 round drum. We always run the 64 on this thing. No real reason to switch it out for anything else, to be honest with you guys. Now, on the ammunition side of things, what we're going to do is we're going to throw on either lengthened or we're going to throw on hollow points. Kind of up to you if what you want to do for your personal preference. I've had good success with hollow point and with lengthened. It's up to you and what you want to be able to do. Now, in the rear grip section here, what we're going to do is this is not really up for debate. We're going to be throwing on the taped grip here because this is just a peak sort of movement style rear grip with no cons to it whatsoever, which is absolutely incredible. So we got to love that. So that's why we're going to run taped grip. In the optics section, we're going to throw on the slate reflector here. The slate reflector is just super easy to be able to use. You can use this or maybe something like the Nightjar Model 47, but it's just a clear red dot sight. It's pretty much what the slate reflector is. So that's the reason I recommend for you guys to run this. Now, in the stock section, what we're going to do is we're going to go for the first stock here, the body HF folding, hip fire accuracy, aim, walking, movement speed, ADS speed, and of course that beautiful sprint to fire speed. You're not going to get that overall increase in movement speed like you would with the Armaguerra FR, so you guys could definitely run the Armaguerra FR if you want that increase in movement speed, but this in combination with that SG98 compact is a really good combo, and it just works out very, very well. Now, in the perk section, what we're going to do is we're going to go for momentum for the increase in movement speed after kills. And then in perk 2, we're going to go for quick for the overall increase in sprint speed. This is a real fun Marco build to be able to run after the update. It's super good, and it's definitely a top tier meta SMG in Warzone right now. All right, next up, we're going to give you guys a build here for the Armaguerra or the Armaguerra, whatever you want to call it. Pretty much, I just call it the Arma. This thing is a really solid SMG. I don't think it gets enough love here right now, but it's pretty much top 3 in the game. So let's give you guys a build for it. So muzzle category, we're going to go throw on, of course, the recoil booster. In the barrel section, we're going to go throw on the last barrel here, which is the body 570 precision. I actually really like this barrel. They did actually try to mess with here in the most recent update, but it's still an incredibly good barrel to run on this gun, so that's the reason I'd recommend for you guys to run this. In the underbarrel section, I'm throwing the Mark V Ice Skeletal here for ADS speed and movement speed. This is real solid underbarrel gear. You guys can also try it out if you really want to go a little crazy with it, the SMLE pistol grip. But of course, you're gonna have to deal with a little bit more recoil, so it's up to you guys if you can handle that. I personally been able to try it out, and I've handled it pretty nicely, but I know some other people out there have trouble with recoil control, so the Mark V Skeletal is going to be probably your other better option for this gun. Now, the magazine section, we're going to go through on the 9mm 60 round mag, or you guys can throw on the 9mm 42 round fast mag. It's a little bit up to you in terms of that, but I usually go for the 60 just because the Armas, normally speaking, got a really high fire rate, and you're going to be downing people and want to take out, trios and quads, and, playing with 42 rounds is not nearly as good as having 60 in pretty much a lot of situations, so I always go for the 60, and I'm a 60 round mag kind of guy, you know what I'm saying? So the ammunition side of things, though, we're going to go for lengthen for increase in bullet velocity. Rear grip section here, we're going to go for taped grip here, of course, where you got to peek out our movement, and the taped grip's going to help us do that. In the optics section, we're going to go for that beautiful slate reflector here. Gotta love that. It's very easy to be able to see through. Slate reflector is just such a good optic. And then in the stock section, we're going to go for the Armaguerra SA folding for that sprint to fire speed and, of course, movement speed. This is a really solid stock here, and I personally run this pretty much all the time on this gun. And then in perk 1, we're going to go for sleight of hand, actually, just because we have that 6 round mag on there, and I want to be able to reload quicker. So I go for sleight of hand on this gun. And then in perk 2, we're going to go for quick for the increase in sprint speed. This is a really, really solid build to use on this thing. Super fun, very lethal, and you guys should be taking people out pretty quickly. Next up, let's give you guys a build here for the War MP5. They did give us a pretty sizable buff in the most recent update, and probably the effort to kind of stabilize out the meta, make sure that it's just not exclusively Vanguard weapons, and so they buffed this thing back into the meta here. So first thing, muzzle category, we're gonna go for the agency suppressor here. We always run the agency suppressor. After that, I know I get a lot of comments about this, people asking about the iron sights in terms of like how they look when you're in game. You have to actually run a variant, any variant of the MP5. It can't be the base variant, and that's where the iron sights are going to look the way they do, which is that super clear and not that circular sort of sight. Like, so if you're throwing like the task force barrel, you get that circular sight, but when you don't have a barrel on here with a variant, you get those very clear open sights. So that's just kind of how that works. Under barrel section, we're gonna go for the bruiser grip here for the movement speed and hip fire accuracy. After that, in the laser section, we're gonna go for the Tiger Team Spotlight here for movement speed and aim walking movement speed. This is a really solid option, though I've also switched out the Tiger Team to run like a rear grip, like a serpent wrap. But we're gonna go for the Tiger Team on this build. In the magazine section, we're gonna go for the Stenag 50 round drum here for the increased ammo capacity. And then to finish off this whole thing, we're gonna go for the Raider stock here in the last option. So this is a really solid build here, super like peak movement. Absolutely love this thing. A really fun gun to build, use here after the update, even before the update, but now it's just even better. So we gotta love that. All right, next up, I'm gonna give you guys a build here on the Modern Warfare Uzi. I don't think a lot of people were really expecting this guy to get a buff in the recent update, but ever since it got a buff, it's actually pretty dang solid and really fun to use. I made a dedicated video on this thing to show how good it actually is in game, and it's really solid. So let's give you guys a good build for it. So we're actually gonna skip the muzzle category here first off. We're gonna go straight to that barrel section. We're gonna go for the FSS Carbine Pro damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. This is actually a DLC barrel they added on like forever ago. We used to only have these first three in here, and it really wasn't all that great, but they added the FSS Carbine Pro, and that's definitely like the move. You have to run this barrel on this gun. We're actually going to skip the underbarrel section and go straight to the laser. We're going to throw on the 5 MW laser here for hip fire accuracy and sprint to fire speed. The mini Uzi, or the Uzi's like actually hip fire ability with this on is actually pretty nice. So I really enjoy having this, and it kind of makes up for sometimes a little bit of that lack of sort of like strafe speed you can get with some of these other guns. But when you can hip fire pretty accurately, that's a huge W. Now in the magazine section, what we're going to do is we're going to go for the .41 AE 32 round mag. This gives you that increase in damage and range. Don't really worry too much about that negative con there for that, you know, that recoil control. It's not really too much to worry about because you pretty much have to run this. This is the way this gun is actually super effective, is with this magazine. So you have to run the AE 32 round mag. Seriously, like you have to. In the optic section, where I normally don't run an optic, but because these iron sights are so chalked on the Uzi, you kind of have to run an optic. We're gonna go through on the GI Mini Reflex here. This is real easy to be able to see through. It's pretty much like the slate reflector here of the Modern Warfare weapons. Very easy. I mean, I absolutely love the GI when I need it, just like for special instances like this. So I'm gonna go through on the GI. And then lastly, we're gonna go on to the perk section. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw on Sleight of Hand here, just because we have a 32 round mag, and it pretty much 32 rounds is not really that beneficial outside of like solos. So I mean, you know, duos, trios, and quads, you're gonna need to reload, and Sleight of Hand is gonna massively help you out and be able to take out multiple people. So this is my full build here for the Mini Uzi, or the Uzi. This thing is really solid, a lot of fun to use here after the update. I'm so happy they actually buffed it. All right, next up, I gotta give you guys a build here for the H4 Blixen, as they actually try to mess with this thing, kind of nerf it a little bit, but it's still pretty much like my #1 go-to secondary in the game right now, short of like the Mark 05. I mean, it's still seriously so good. So let's give you guys a build for it to help you dominate or continue to dominate Warzone with. So we're gonna go, of course, in here, recoil booster, barrel section, we're gonna go for the Bergstrom 17 F3 barrel. Gotta love this. We switched over from the Johnson barrel to run the Bergstrom, so we gotta be running the Bergstrom here on this gun. In the underbarrel section, we're gonna go throw on the SG98 Compact, kind of similar to what we did for the Mark 05. I was actually running the SG98 Compact on here way before the Mark 05. That's more of a newer build. I've kind of switched some stuff around on, but this is just a real solid thing to be able to run on this gun here in particular. Now in the magazine section, we're gonna go for the 7.62 Gorenko 54. You always want to run the 54 over the 36. I know it says increased torso damage on this one, but to be honest with you guys, to keep it a full $150 plus tax, I really don't believe that increased torso damage does like hardly anything in comparison to like having the 54. And you also get an increase in headshot damage here, which is definitely not bad. So I just would rather have the 54 over the 36, as the TTK difference is like almost negligible, and you're pretty much not going to notice it at all. Now, on the ammunition side of things, we're going to go for lengthened for increase in bullet velocity, though you could try out hollow point if you really feel so inclined to do so, but I just go for lengthened. In the rear grip section here, what we're going to do is we're going to go for the grooved grip here, not taped like we normally would. It's the ADS-5 move speed and horizontal recoil control. I really like actually running the grooved grip on here, and it's definitely going to help you guys out here in terms of being able to strafe back and forth. It's kind of ridiculous, makes you feel like you're on skates And then in the optics section, we're gonna go for, of course, the slate reflector here, like always. I mean, slate reflector, Night Air Model 47, personal preference on that one, but you have to run a red dot sight on here, not necessarily go for the iron sights. Iron sights really not all that great, so just go for a red dot. Stock section, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go for the Bergstrom MB, hipfire accuracy, ADS speed, and movement speed. Gotta love that. You really won't notice any of that recoil control. It's not gonna be a thing you're gonna notice. And then on the perk section, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go for fleet tier for weapon swap quickness and movement speed. And then perk 2, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go for quick for the overall increase in sprint speed. Gotta love this thing. Super good right now. High stress. I mean, you're gonna be stressing people out when you're using this gun here in Warzone because you're gonna be deleting them so fast. All right, next up, fellas, we're gonna give you guys a build here for the Type 100. This is not necessarily like a great gun for like quads and stuff like that, but if you guys play solos and duos, this is going to be really solid because that damage per mag is not nearly as high, but well, I'll talk about that here in just a second. So muzzle category, we're going to go over to the recoil booster here. Barrel section, we're going to go for the War MP5 134mm rapid barrel for the increase in fire rate and damage range. Gotta love that. In the underbarrel section, we definitely need to stabilize this thing out, so we're going to go for the M1941 hand stop here for that vertical and horizontal recoil control. This thing moves around, it jiggles, you know, it's got a little bit of that recoil to it, so gotta be able to balance this thing out. I mean, it looks the same on, you know, on 120 FOV PC, as people like to say that, you know, stuff doesn't move around as much on 120 FOV. This thing definitely still jiggles, so you gotta run the M1941 hand stop. Magazine section, this is what I was talking about here when damage per mag. You got to run the Russian short 36 round mag here because that increases like your damage range, all that stuff. Makes this gun really effective, but the downside, of course, is that it's only got 36 rounds in the magazine, which is definitely not preferable for like something like trios and quads, where something like the Mark 05 or the Blixen with that 54 and like 64 round mag is going to come in a lot more handy, you know what I'm saying? So 36 is going to be the way to go on this gun, but it's just not going to be as great for trios and quads, so be warned on that one. Ammunition, we're to go for, of course, the lengthened here for the increase in bullet velocity. The rig grip section here, we got to go for that beautiful taped grip here. Really love this thing. I mean, of course, it's got no cons. We just, you know, boost up our movement overall. Optic section, what we're going to do is we're going to go for the slate reflector here. Gotta love this thing. In the stock section, we're going to go for the War MP5 grip folding here for aim walking movement speed, aim walking steadiness, and that initial firing recoil. This is going to slow this gun down ever so slightly, but it's going to really make so that you're actually able to hit your shots. And I believe this or the skeletal are going to be the way to go. You guys can switch between the two, but the grip folding here is going to be probably my recommended attachment. Now in perk 1, what we're going to do is we're going to go for acrobatic here for that movement speed and sprinting movement speed. And then of course in perk 2, we had to go for quick for that increase in sprint speed. This is my full builds here on the Type 100. This is a real good gun to use, but of course that damage per mag is a little bit lacking in comparison. All right, so for our special here that I was talking about at the end of the video, I want to give you guys a build here for the Mac 10, as this got buffed not within the most recent update, but the update before that to bring in more so into the meta to kind of make it more effective. It's actually a pretty good gun, so let's give you guys a solid build for it. So HNC suppressor here is our first attachment in the muzzle category. We run this on all of our Cold War SMGs, ARs, you know, pretty much all of the above. Barrel section, we're going to go for the 5.9 task force, effective damage range, bullet velocity, and strafe speed. Gotta love that. The recoil control, you're not going to notice too much on here. I mean, we've been running this without like a foregrip on underneath for a while, but actually speaking of foregrips, we're going to go to the underbarrel section and give it a foregrip, not for the purpose of recoil control, but we're going to give it the bruiser grip here for movement speed and hip fire accuracy, which is going to be a pretty solid addition to this gun. Now in the magazine section, we're going to go through on this Stenai 53 round drum for the increase in ammo capacity. I don't believe to run the Salvo 53 is any bit good. I would just rather go for the Stenai 53 and pretty much just call it a day, as I've never had any issues with it, like pretty much ever in my lifetime of using the Mac 10. Now, for our last attachment to go for the stock section, we got to throw on that Raider stock here, that 80s fire move speed, aim walking movement speed, and of course, that beautiful sprint to fire time. Gotta love the Raider stock on this thing. This is my full builds here. Real fun to be able to use. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys did, give it a like, subscribe, so notifications turned on. I'll see you guys all later. Just on the gap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.